Look closely at the footage on your screen. This is a window into a world that was built with a specific kind of intention. Captured in the late 1930s, this neighborhood in the American West represents a moment in time when home was a sacred concept, not just a square footage calculation on a developer's spreadsheet. Notice the diversity of the architecture. Every house has its own face, its own soul. You see the white picket fences that don't serve as barriers but as invitations. You see the craftsman details, the stone chimneys, and the way the homes seem to sit in harmony with the distant mountains. There is a quiet dignity here. Even through the grainy lens of an old camera, you can feel the permanence. These houses were built to be inherited. They were built by men who expected to live on these streets for 50 years and whose children would do the same. The cars parked on the curbs are heavy with steel and chrome, mirroring the solidity of the structures behind them. There is a human scale to everything. The sidewalks are wide enough for a conversation. The trees are given room to breathe. In this era, beauty wasn't a luxury reserved for the elite. It was a baseline requirement for the middle class. To build something ugly was considered a civic failure. It was an insult to the community. But as we move our gaze away from this archival memory and look at the America of 2026, we are struck by a profound and melancholy realization. This version of America, the one with character, craftsmanship, and a sense of place, has been systematically erased. The intention has been replaced by efficiency. The fixed anchor has been traded for the disposable unit. To understand why our surroundings have become so gray, so sterile, and so profoundly ugly, we have to look beneath the stucco. We have to perform an archaeology of the finance that killed the American aesthetic. The first layer of our archaeology takes us to the post-war boom, where the religion of building we discussed in previous investigations took a dark industrial turn. In the wake of the 1940s, America faced a massive housing shortage. The solution was the Levittown model. We applied the logic of the Ford assembly line to the American landscape. This was the birth of the tract home. While this provided shelter for millions, it introduced a poison into our architectural soul: standardization. For the first time, houses were no longer built for families, they were produced for markets. The builder's primary goal was no longer the durability of the stone chimney or the uniqueness of the bay window. The goal was the velocity of construction. We began to build non-places. These are environments that look exactly the same whether you are in Ohio, Arizona, or Florida. The same beige stucco, the same asphalt shingles, the same plastic siding. By removing the local character, corporations could scale their operations across the continent. They treated the American neighborhood like a franchise, a product to be stamped out with the least amount of friction possible. This was the death of the craftsman. In the Golden Age, a carpenter was an artist. In the modern era, he is an installer. We replaced the skilled hand of the mason with the spray-on texture of the industrial contractor. We traded the patina of age for the shininess of new, not realizing that things made of plastic don't age, they only degrade. The ugliness of modern America is the visual result of a society that stopped valuing the hand and started worshiping the machine. As we move into the 1980s, we find the true engine of our modern ugliness: the finance. In 1986, a major shift in the U.S. Tax Reform Act changed how real estate was treated as an asset. We moved into the era of depreciation economics. Investors realized that from a tax perspective, a building is not a permanent monument, it is a wasting asset. The goal of the modern developer is to build a structure that can be fully depreciated and sold within 15 to 20 years.
Why spend money on hand-carved limestone or high-quality brick if the building is designed to be a tax shield that'll be torn down or renovated by the next owner in 2 decades? This is the finance of the temporary. We build ugly because ugly is tax efficient. The rise of REITs, real estate investment trusts, accelerated this trend. Your neighborhood is no longer owned by people who live there. It is owned by a portfolio managed in a skyscraper in New York or London. These institutional owners don't care about the character of the street. They care about the internal rate of return. They demand materials that are cheap to buy and fast to install. They want tilt-up concrete walls and EIFS foam facades. We have entered the age of spreadsheet architecture. Every beautiful detail, every arch, every spire, every unique ornament is viewed by the accountant as a cost to be optimized. The result is a landscape of value-engineered boxes. We are living in the physical manifestation of a quarterly earnings report. The reason America is ugly is that beauty has no return on investment in a 15-year tax cycle.
The final layer of our archaeology reveals the most visible scar on the American face, the car-centric desert. In the Golden Age, as we saw in the footage, the car was a guest in the neighborhood. Today, the car is the master. Beginning in the 1970s, minimum parking requirements and zoning laws mandated that every building be surrounded by a vast sea of asphalt. We destroyed our historic downtowns, the places of brick, neon, and human connection, to make room for surface lots and strip malls. The strip mall is the ultimate symbol of American ugliness. It is a disposable architecture designed for the convenience of the bumper, not the dignity of the human foot. It is a world of bright plastic signs, flickering neon open lights, and the constant low-frequency hum of traffic. This car-centric design has killed the third place, the spots between home and work where community happens. When you are forced to drive from one isolated big box store to another, you never experience the sovereignty of sight. You only experience the boredom of the commute. We have paved over our history to create a world of throughput. The ugliness of the American Stroad, those half-street, half-road hybrids, is the result of a culture that prioritized the speed of the dollar over the quality of the life. We have traded the park for the parking lot, and we wonder why we feel so isolated in our own towns. So, as economic archaeologists, standing in the shadow of a gray, plastic America, what is our golden insight? How do we reclaim the beauty that was stolen by the spreadsheet and the assembly line? First, we must cultivate the eye. We must stop accepting cheap as a substitute for good. In your own life, prioritize the analog and the durable. Support the last remaining craftsman. Choose the home with good bones over the new McMansion with plastic skin. Beauty is a form of financial sovereignty. It is the refusal to be a disposable consumer. Second, we must defend the heritage. If you live in a town that still has its historic brick and its human-scale streets, guard them as if they were gold. They are the social capital of the next generation. Once a beautiful building is replaced by a concrete box, the soul of that street is gone forever. Third, recognize that ugliness is a choice. It is a choice made by a system that values velocity over value. By understanding the archaeology of the ugly, you regain the power. You stop being a victim of the disposable society and start being a steward of the golden age. The world on your screen, the world of 1930s intention, is not a fantasy. It was real. It was built by people with fewer tools and less money than we have today. They didn't have computers, but they had vision. They didn't have global supply chains, but they had pride. We cannot go back to the 1930s, but we can stop building for the accountant and start building for the human soul.
America was meant to be a bright city on a hill, not a beige box in a parking lot. Use this insight to see the world as it truly is and protect the beauty that remains. Thank you for watching the Golden Age Insight.